December 26th. And the second game between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen is about to start. Wesley So now with white pieces, and he needs to go out for that win, I guess.
That's right. He sometimes adopts a safety-first approach with white, especially we saw that in the preliminary stages and in some of the knockout games a bit earlier on. But now safety is not on his mind. It can't be on his mind. Especially with white, he needs to put the pressure on Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, he absolutely needs to put the pressure on Magnus. You know, he can't be pragmatic. He can't depend on tomorrow's games. It has to be now. But Twitter, to be honest, is still reeling from Magnus's brilliance. And we have a tweet from Subhash Karup who says, that endgame was brilliant. And then another tweet from Atul Kumar Singh. He says, fire the board, Mozart. Thumbs up. So, yeah, everyone very much in awe of Magnus's technique.
He did show some fantastic, beautiful chess in that first game, and now Wesley So is getting ready to fight back in game two. We do know that he as well can do great stuff on the chessboard. He just needs to get ready and get fired up and get the claws out on the chessboard, I guess.
That's right, and we saw him leaning back a moment ago, just looking up into the ceiling. He's having a think. How does he approach this game? What strategy does he go for? He needs to keep lots of pieces on the board. We've seen Magnus Carlsen's endgame skills now in so many games. We have seen both sides pushing the pawn in front of their king forward 2 squares on the first turn. We've seen an opening that's called the Italian game. Both sides developing their knights, developing their bishops. It's all about control of the centre here, and both sides trying to stake out their claims. Very sensible opening. This has been seen countless times before. Both players, they've actually used this opening against each other many times.
Yeah. And in fact, Wesley has been playing this very variation in this tournament, actually, with great success. So it doesn't come as a surprise to Magnus.
That's right. And both players playing extremely fast. They both started with 15 minutes on the clock. They both gained time now. Wesley So retreats a knight, but that knight is destined for a better square. Black retreats a knight, and white is taking space in the centre. White's pawns now, white's 2 central pawns, beautiful on those central squares. Black has been forced to retreat his bishop to the corner there. This is very well known. I think we also saw Hikaru Nakamura defend the black side of this position earlier in the tournament. Hikaru Nakamura, probably the world expert on this position. Wesley So, as we know, he played him in those semi-finals. Therefore, he studied this position as well, for sure.
Do you think actually Hikaru helped Wesley So into this game? Can it be that they have talked to each other, being both American?
It's possible. I think maybe it's more likely that Wesley So, he was looking at this position while studying Hikaru's games. So he learnt from Hikaru's experiences indirectly. We see black there push a pawn forward, attacking white's bishop on the left side. White's bishop will be forced to retreat. I think white will be the happier of the two here. Wesley So slightly happier than Magnus Carlsen, purely because white's pawns are slightly further advanced in the centre there. It's very symmetrical. It looks like both sides are kind of copying each other, but it's all about that centre of the board. It's all about the midfield, like any sport. If you control the middle, you control the game. And Wesley So, with white's pawns, has slightly more central space.
What piece would be the Diego Maradona piece, just dribbling from the center and all the way into the other territory? The queen?
Hand of God.
The hand of God.
The queen, it must be the queen, right?
Yeah.
She's so dexterous, she can jump from left to right, she can cover so much ground.
Yes, absolutely.
She can dribble her way past all the opponent's pieces.
Yeah.
Well, the hand of God, that would suit very nice in chess, as it is the hand that you usually use more than in football.
Right, and there we see Wesley So, Magnus Carlsen, sorry, has pushed a pawn at the edge of the board for black, just trying to gain a bit more space on the side, on the flank. Personally, I think black's action there on the left side of the board is not that effective. Magnus Carlsen trying to stake his claim, but it's all about the centre right now. And Wesley So, he's done the perfect thing. Look at white's bishops, look at white's knights. They're all lined up perfectly, controlling so many squares between them. That's great coordination, great teamwork. Black bringing a rook towards the centre. This one, I think Wesley, maybe he's been thinking the same thing I've been thinking. He needs to keep as many pieces on the board as possible. There have been no trades so far, no exchanges. He's learnt from that last game. Magnus Carlsen, he's the endgame genius. Wesley, so his best chances earlier in the game with as many pieces on the board as possible. I expect to see Wesley now maybe move his queen, bring his queen up one square. White's rooks will bring themselves across towards the centre. White's rook now, bottom left corner, not doing anything. That needs to be improved. Still tense, but Wesley must be happy.
Have they actually traded any pieces yet?
No, they haven't traded any pieces, so it's a very, very tense game. You know, both sides are trying to catch the other one on the wrong foot. You know, as David mentioned, White occupies the centre, so Wesley will be doing absolutely everything to hold and maintain that centre, because when you occupy the centre, you get more choices because you control the space. And Magnus is going to start pressurising that centre, forcing Wesley to do something, to either trade or perhaps to come forward, in which case Magnus will get a direct plan.
That's right, and we see Magnus Carlsen push a pawn forward there.
Forward. He's seizing the space on the wing. So he's like, yeah, you take the centre, I'm going to take the wing.
That's right. If we bring up the board, we can see what Magnus Carlsen's idea is with this last couple of moves. He did leave this pawn undefended. Some of you at home may be wondering why the white queen cannot take this pawn. White's queen is attacking it. It's not defended right now, but Black's bishop would jump forward with its discovered attack against the white queen. So it's very risky bringing your queen out in front of your army too early in the game. Instead, Magnus just moved his queen forward one square. Wesley so pushing a pawn and Wesley so pushing a pawn on the same flank. This is controversial, trying to block things up on this left side of the board. Wesley, remember, has this central space. Those two pawns in the centre are beautiful. So Wesley trying to block the left side so that he can focus on the centre later. Very interesting move there by Wesley. I personally, I'm a bit concerned. I don't like it too much. But, okay, gaining space is normally never a bad thing. Yeah,
it's trying to gain space and clamp it down, but it does look ugly, I have to say. It not necessarily the first move that comes to mind. But guys, get ready to be green with envy, because we had a tweet from Matt Bamford who says, chess champs, here's the sea and the beer. You're all doing a superb job on the commentary, and I'm doing my best to keep up the good work this side. Hard to see Magnus fall from here. And look at that. And David, we have blue skies and a sun.
Oh, wow. Well, lucky people.
I know.
I prefer the cold wind here in Norway. Who needs the sun? Who needs beers?
Thank you, Matt, for that very great tweet.
Oh, I'm just dreaming of summer right now. Well, have to wait for that.
That's right. And meanwhile, while we wait for summer, we're also waiting for Magnus to think. And Magnus, he's actually played a very special move there. For those of you who are actually starting to learn the game, maybe we can bring the board up to show what just happened. There's a special move, Ivanka. It's called en passant.
We haven't heard about this so far in the tournament.
That's right.
What is it?
Barely seen it. We'll need the board to show this special move. We saw a set of pawns leave the board. Bit of a trade. We do see White pushes his pawn forward 2 squares. And when you do this, if your opponent's pawn is very far advanced, it looks like you're bypassing this pawn. But there's a special move. If you move this pawn 2 in one go, on the first go, the first time this pawn's ever moved, Black can actually capture on this square. This is one to watch out for. It looks like you're bypassing that pawn, but actually Black is allowed to take it. This pawn disappears off the board, and it's as if it just moved forward 1 square, essentially. This is why it's so good to advance your pawns to the 5th rank, because then you always have this option of capturing your opponent's pawns once they move.
Why this rule?
It's a complicated one.
Yeah, it kind of happened in the 15th century when they decided to do a big shake-up of the rules, and they just thought, well, this is a special thing to kind of acknowledge the whole thing, that pawn used to move 1 square at a time. But yeah, I agree with you. There's some kind of chess rules that don't really make so much sense. I know some people have been campaigning against the stalemate, where the king is trapped and is unable to move, but is not in checkmate. They say, well, why should that be a draw?
Yeah, but that rule also sounds strange to me, because the player that has put the other player in stalemate, I mean, has done a great job.
Normally, that's right. Sometimes you might have 3 extra queens, 3 queens against no queens, but you might not win the game because of the stalemate rule. But it just shows, I think it's asking for awareness. You have to look for the checks. You have to attack the enemy king. Sometimes it's not enough to be greedy and be materialistic. And actually, we see here White's last move, jumping the rook up the board by Wesley. So a great move there. And Stockfish, the computer, kind of the oracle, above the right-hand side of above the board there on the top right of the screen, it shows that White is doing very well. Black only has one move here that doesn't give a more than 2-pawn advantage for White. Black should shuffle his queen across one square, but White is going to use his 2 rooks. We see one rook has advanced, the other rook's going to come behind and support it on the corner there. The 2 rooks are going to line up together, teamwork again, and they're going to double up, and White is doing very well.
And the computer is saying that we see on the bar that it is quite a big advantage for. So do you think he's winning this now at this point in the game?
Yeah, well, you can see Magnus has just played the recommended move, so he knows when to limit White's advantage. But do I think it's winning? No, because the material is level. I just think it's much more comfortable for Wesley. It's easier for him to come up with a plan. He has control of that line on the left-hand side. He is going to do his utmost to put pressure on Magnus there, but also psychologically just keep on making small moves so that Magnus cracks. That's right. And Wesley just having a pause here, slightly surprisingly. We did see Magnus slightly shake his head. He's not happy. He's not happy. We do expect to see, OK, the other rook joins its fellow on that.
They're on the same line.
Exactly. They've teamed up. Those rooks protecting each other. Magnus, he's begging for a trade of all the rooks now.
Oh, look at the bar here.
Yeah, I'm slightly surprised. I think Magnus surprised as well. We just saw he raised his eyebrows. Maybe he just didn't think that last move through. And we do see that White has a very strong move here. We're looking for him to exchange all those rooks off on the corner of the board. There's a bit of tension between those rooks. If White does trade off for all the rooks, I think he has a very strong move after that. So I'm shocked by Magnus Carlsen's last move, just the speed it was played. He must sense that he's in trouble, but he's still got 13 minutes left. I would have spent 2-3 minutes trying to figure out how to deal with that tension. Instead here, Wesley, so he can trade off all the rooks, then release the tension in the centre. Yeah, he's caught Magnus on the wrong foot, and I'm getting ready for those series of exchanges. But yeah, Wesley hesitating, though, because what you should do in this kind of situation is you should stop and pause, because there are so many possibilities here. You have the captures, you have 2 captures on the board, and here is where you have to stop and go, OK, I'm going to work it out. And I have this kind of analogy which I tell my students. When you have so many possibilities that are forcing moves, by the forcing moves I mean checks, captures, attacks, you stop, you put on your glasses and you work through those possibilities and you go option A, option B, and that helps you see everything. And we have seen White trade absolutely everything, and it's here that we have a very special move, because one of Black's pieces, and that is the bishop on the left-hand side, it has no protection at all. And if you look at White's bishop is also standing opposite diagonally, and this means that Wesley can make a very good move with the pawn he can capture in the centre, and suddenly a lot of pieces are going to be on prise. That's right, and Wesley does find by far the best move in that position. And Magnus Carlsen, he's got his head in his hands. He knows it, yes.
The smile is gone.
Yeah, did he miss that move? I struggle to believe it. Maybe he just didn't realise how strong it is. If we bring up the board now, we have to keep the players' faces, though, at the same time, if we can, because Magnus Carlsen, he knows he's in big trouble. He knows he's made a mistake, and it's all because of this unprotected bishop. Black's bishop is not defended now. Suddenly, White has attack against that bishop and attack against this knight. Magnus, he's flicked in a check. He's checked the White king, but White has many ways of dealing with that. White can simply drop his bishop back and block. There's nothing wrong with White's position here. White's king is still safe as houses. Meanwhile, White has a double attack against the knight and against the bishop. White is going to emerge up ahead by at least a pawn, maybe even more. Magnus Carlsen, a huge mistake. He does not look happy.
It definitely looks like he's seen his mistake and he is aware that this is going to be a tough fight for him to save this.
Yeah, it looks like he knows it's gone wrong, and so he's taken a step back and kind of physically distanced himself from the computer screen. And Wesley is very eagle-eyed and has retreated the bishop to block the check. And now Magnus has been forced to take that bishop, and now we've seen pawn takes knight. And goodness me, that black king is going to be very, very unsafe.
Because it looks quite safe with many black pieces in front of it, but in fact it isn't safe.
It's not safe because you see that white pawn? It's been like your Diego Maradona. It has bypassed some of the defenses and it's going to be capturing one more pawn. Because the thing is, in black position, black needs to retreat the bishop. It's under attack. So before he can deal with this white pawn, he must move the bishop backwards or anywhere. And now Wesley can play pawn takes pawn. And you can see the black king no longer has that important cover.
That's right. So black's bishop there in the white half of the board. This bishop is attacked. This is what Magnus Carlsen must have missed. He didn't realise that he had... Well, he just has no time now to recapture this pawn in his in his own camp. Black has to retreat this bishop. I'm not sure, it might go this way, it might go the other way, but either way now, white is the one who's going to break open the protection in front of the black king. White's pawn, it's a bit like checkers. It's just started here, it's gone up 2 squares, then it's captured, it's captured, it's captured, it's
Maradona.
It's Maradona.
Yeah.
You called it, Kaya.
There we have it. The poor pawn from the opening position.
Yes.
It's just making its way over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pawns are the soul of chess. That's the saying. They're foot soldiers, but if they get to the end of the board, they can become monarchs, they can become royalty. And
all of this sounds very Maradona-ish.
Yes.
Sounds like his story.
It does. And we actually have a question from Chad who asks, can the players see the sliding score like we can? And the answer is no. The players cannot see the sliding score because if they could, this would be a form of cheating in some ways, because they would know that there is something wrong. So when you see the bar slide all the way to the right, you're thinking, OK, well, there's something for black. And if you see it score all the way to the left, then you know there's something for white. And this is a sign that you should start looking, and a very strong player can actually figure it out, what is happening. And you don't want that. You don't want any intervention at all. You simply want the players to play all by themselves and make their own mistakes or find their own brilliancies.
Exactly. Very strict rules in this tournament. The player is not allowed to leave the room when they are playing these games. They might be sitting there for 45 minutes, so they have to make sure to go to the toilet before they go into the games.
Yes.
That's right. And they share their screens with the referees, with the arbiters, just to make sure that there's nothing funny going on. The arbiters, they'll have several cameras on the players and they'll have a screen share. The players, all they can see is the screen, the board and the clock.
And I think they actually also have to show their air before it starts into the web camera to the arbiter so that they don't have an earpiece.
This is good. We're very strict here.
It is very strict. OK, we do have a move.
That's right. And black, as predicted, has retreated his bishop. His bishop was under attack from a white pawn. That bishop, I mean, it's one of the most valuable pieces left. And we see white's pawn continues its Maradona-esque run. It's right next to the goal now. It's only got the goalkeeper to beat.
Who was it against England? Peter
Shilton, I think.
Peter Shilton in the back there for Magnus Carlsen.
So here we're saying the black king is the goalkeeper, the England goalkeeper, and Maradona, the pawn, is running past. Well, it's run past everyone now, just has the goalie to beat. And more importantly, if black captures that pawn, black can take that pawn with his king right now, but then his king steps forward. It will be out in the open. White's knights can start dancing towards it. White has not just a pawn, well, a 2-pawn advantage right now. All of white's pieces, we see the 2 knights there especially, they're ready to pounce towards black's king if he steps forward. Magnus Carlsen, he needs to kind of, well, I don't know really, he needs something to kind of just confuse his opponent. It's just so easy for Wesley So to play this position. He needs to somehow get those queens off the board, maybe head towards his favourite endgames. We see Magnus Carlsen there trying to trade knights. We've seen him seek safety in endgames before. I think that's his best chance now. Wesley So can exchange knights. Maybe he should be trying to bring his queen towards the black king. That would be my first priority right now.
Yeah, we've seen it actually. When one side has an unsafe king, we've been very strict and we've been saying attack. You should always go forward and try to attack and put that king under tremendous discomfort. And Magnus moving his knight to the centre, trying to eliminate some of the potential attackers. Wonder how Wesley will handle that.
That's right, and we see the green bar, it's gone all the way over to Wesley So's side. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to win immediately. Maybe he just needs to improve his pieces. If we bring up the analysis board, we can see a possible plan. Jovanka and I, we've mentioned this in previous days. Talk to your pieces. Ask which one is least happy right now, which one needs to be improved. I would be talking to this queen for white.
Me too, David.
You too, Jovanka?
I'm a one-track mind. I'm going for that king.
Exactly. This queen, it's very far away from the black king right now, but maybe with 2-3 moves, she can enter that black camp. Just shuffle across one square, zoom up the board, and try and checkmate that black king. It's a bit of a journey for the white queen, but there's only 3 moves. I would move my queen across right now. I think black's king is in huge, huge trouble. Maybe that's why the computer, the bar, prefers white's position. Black's king is lacking defenders. It's lacking pawns around it. This Maradona here, keeping it nice and boxed up in the top corner.
In honor of the great Diego Maradona, who passed away a few days ago. All right, so Wesley So obviously in a winning position, but it's a slow winning position. He needs time. He needs to develop pieces.
He needs to harmonise. He needs to harmonise his pieces, because at the minute his advantage is purely dynamic. By that I mean he's on the attack. He has to go forward. He has to use all his pieces. And the best thing is, as David says, get that queen in to start staring at that black monarch. And once that's done, then black, I think, will be almost lost.
And Wesley So, does he now definitely want to keep these queens on the board as he is in a winning position, a better position? And does Magnus want to trade them off?
Yes, to both. Wesley So, I mean, it's all about king safety. White's king here, it has 2 knights to protect it. It has a bishop to protect it. It has so many pawns to protect it. Black's king is the one without as many clothes. It just doesn't have any shelter. Therefore, if you compare kings, whoever has the safest king should keep the queens on the board. Plus, we've seen Magnus Carlsen with queens off the board work his magic so many times now in this tournament. Wesley So, he needs to avoid a queen trade, but he also needs to bring it towards the black king.
And that black octo knight, I mean, that must be a perfect square for a knight.
It is a perfect square for the knight. There's absolutely no denying that. But the big issue is that the black king is unsafe. So Magnus has to desperately protect his king. And Wesley does have all the time in the world. He can mobilise the queen. I would do that. David, and yep, that's the move. That's the move that we're thinking. We are going straight for mate, because that white pawn that's right opposite the black king has a great checkmating square. And David has highlighted where we want that queen to go. We wanted to make that journey. But I mean, the main issue is this king. Whilst this king is unsafe, then that is going to be the thing that dominates the game.
That's right. And for those of you at home as well, sometimes you're wondering, how do I decide where to put my pieces? Sometimes all you need to do is close your eyes and just imagine, if you could pick up a piece and put it anywhere on the board, where would you put it? And you know that's the end goal. It's just about how to get there. So Wesley, he'll know he wants to put his queen in the corner here. That would be checkmate in one move. It's just looking for a path to get there. Yes, it will take 3 or 4 moves, but that's how to form a plan. And once you know what the plan is, then you can decide how to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, my friend used to say it's quite good when she was teaching small children. She goes, you put the sat nav on, you say that's your destination, sat nav on, and then you're in. Yeah,
and then you're in. There's so many cool small tricks to make chess just a little bit easier. All right, what's happening?
He's done it. He is going for the checkmate. He's going for the kill. So exciting stuff. So now Magnus is, after this trade, he traded the knights and the pawn takes knight. He's been forced to capture that king, the pawn. So now the king is out in the open. Yes, it's a very, you have to remember, it's a bit of a nervy old man. He's going to be so unhappy, and now it's just all about attacking that king, using all the pieces to deliver checkmate.
That's right, and White taking a bit of time out there. White's just pushed his own king forward. White's king nice and safe behind a wall of pawns. It's got his bishop as well. The reason Wesley So did that is because maybe White's king was just feeling slightly uncomfortable, eyed up by the black queen across the bottom row. So he's just stepping out of the eye line, the X-ray vision of that black queen. Very sensible move. I think there's just no way to stop the coming attack. White is going to use his queen and use his knight together to get at the Black King. Those are the dream duo. It's like Batman and Robin, the queen and the knight. Together, they can just do anything.
They cover all the squares, light and dark. We've got them. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And Magnus knows, and he knows that he's in trouble. And we have also a really, really lovely tweet. I have to say thank you, Alan Lowe. He says, when the week started, I didn't know I would be watching chess every day. But David Howell, me, Kaya, made it so much fun. I'm really gonna miss these guys. Oh,
that's fantastic to hear. I love to hear that people are actually starting to watch chess, and luckily they don't have to wait long until the next Champions Chess Tour tournament and broadcast. Already December 26th, we are back in the studio.
Yes, we are. And remember, anyone at home who wants to join in the conversation, wants to throw in some move suggestions, some ideas, some observations, you can do this by tweeting us by using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
That's right. I think these players as well, I mean, they're going to start getting nervous. They've been looking forward to this event for so long. This is the big day, $30,000, $30,000, sorry.
Dollars, yeah.
I wish it was pounds. $30,000 for the winner after tomorrow. Magnus Carlsen, maybe after that first game, he thought it was within his grasp. But now, Wesley So fighting back. This is what we love to see.
Yeah, it
He's
would be
a perfect game.
Perfect first day if we actually get 2 wins for different players in 2 games. Then then we have fire.
Yeah, we couldn't have wished for more, really. And I feel actually maybe going behind has just brought out the best in Wesley. So sometimes if the score's level, he doesn't push himself the maximum. Somehow this game, I mean, I can't fault any of his moves.
No.
He's just using all of his pieces so wisely. He's a pawn up, better pieces. Also, one thing I noticed about the position here, look at Black's king, top right-hand corner of the board. The queen, bottom left-hand corner of the board. They're just completely separated.
Queen has to protect her man, her king. Yes. But we also have a really interesting question from Justine Banksy, who says, how do you plan your moves when the other player keeps moving their pieces, though? Can't you fall into a trap just by focusing on one plan?
That's a very good question. So you have to be adaptable, and that's the thing about chess. So you need to have a 3-4 move plan in mind all the time, but you do have to ask yourself what has changed after every opposition move. Sometimes your opponent will see your threat coming, see your plan coming, and you might just have to find a different route for your pieces, or you might have to take a timeout. Like Wesley So here, we know his plan. He wants to checkmate the Black King, but he just took a timeout to improve his own king first. So yeah, you definitely have to have a long-term plan in mind, but you have to kind of duck and dive and be a bit spontaneous with your reactions as well. I think long-term and short-term, it's always a battle, but you need a bit of both to succeed.
And Magnus Carlsen now thinking for 4 minutes on this. I mean, does he have a lot of options here, or is it something he just needs to defend right now?
I think the problem is there are no good options. Wesley So he can, for example, if we bring up the board, Magnus Carlsen, if we bring up the board, we can try and see what he's thinking about. Maybe he could try and be greedy and take a pawn, but this would allow an immediate checkmate. The knight would jump in, and now we see the king is under attack. The queen will jump to this square or to this square. Queen and knight together will win this game. So this is one thing he can't be thinking about. His queen, how does he get back this queen?
He would like to, you know, it's just not possible, but he really would love to just pick up that queen and go, and then move it towards the king. Just move it really close to the king, but it's just not possible. That queen has been completely caught offside. Yeah, and this is the reason why Magnus is in so much trouble, because in effect that king is by itself. And if we look at the white position, white has 2 attackers, the queen and knight, and David has mentioned how fantastic duo this is. And there's just really nothing to be done. And Magnus is probably thinking now, the best thing to do is probably just to give the most trickiest shot for Black. So perhaps maybe something that's going to confuse his opponent, maybe throw something on the queen side, or perhaps try to run with the king and try to find a solace there and say, OK, I don't want to get checkmated. I will just make a bid for my freedom in the center. Yep, that's where I'm headed. And then I give up some material, but that doesn't matter because I'm safe with the king. And then maybe I can use my 2 bishops to pull out a miracle.
That's right. So Magnus Carlsen, we talked about those long-term, short-term threats. Magnus Carlsen also deciding long-term, how is he ever going to save this game? Maybe two ways, either to get his king to safety, which will need a miracle, or to trade the queens. I like that idea, Jovanka running away with the king. Feels a bit cowardly, tucking tail and just running away as fast as you can. And that's not Magnus Carlsen's style, to kind of be scared and run away. But maybe it's necessary. It's very difficult to suggest any advice here. And ticking under 4 minutes now.
But we did see with Wesley So yesterday in the semi-final against Hikaru Nakamura, he did have many winning positions and he was just not able to get that win.
That's right. And actually, Nepomniachtchi also said it against Magnus Carlsen. The hardest thing in chess is winning a one position. You know you're winning. You know you're one step away. Just putting the ball in the back of the net. Sometimes you just get nervous. You tense up at the wrong moment. And that's the only thing that could hold Wesley So back here. Meanwhile, Magnus Carlsen is trying to confuse things. Jovanka mentioned it. He's playing a move he doesn't want to play. He's giving up a pawn here on the left side of the board. If white takes it, maybe then black's queen can zoom back across the diagonal, bring itself closer to its king to protect its king. But Wesley So, I think just pawn takes pawn here on the left side of the board. He'll be 2 pawns ahead. Very safe king. He's for choice. And he was stretching there. He knows he's bossing this game.
Yeah.
Bossing this game, that's a great term. I am bossing this game. Do you think he's feeling that? Is he very confident and just talking to himself?
Yeah.
You're the boss, Wesley So.
Yeah, I think there is some self-talk going on because, there's no doubt about it. Magnus has been such a formidable opponent for him. Remember the score? It was like 35 points to 7.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. And so he'll be just going, calm down, calm down. Play the board, don't play the player, don't get too excited, and just trying to be objective as possible.
And I mean, we have talked about it also, the psychology with playing against world champion Magnus Carlsen. Many players perhaps don't do the natural moves, or they're seeing ghosts on the board because they know it's Magnus. But you said so many times, David, that Wesley So is great at just putting the pieces in natural places. Maybe the psychology against Magnus Carlsen isn't as strong for him.
That's right. I mean, it's just that Magnus effect in general. Players, it affects everyone. I think Wesley So, we might not have seen it so far, but in the back of his mind, he'll know his opponent. And maybe that's why their head-to-head score is so bad. I mean, it was 35-7 before this morning. So now it's 36 points to 7 in Magnus's favour. That's a huge gulf. So even if he doesn't show it, maybe that kind of, just that mental barrier, just knowing that Magnus is his kryptonite, is his nemesis. Maybe that'll affect him. In general, though, Wesley so calm, so cold-blooded. He's all about looking. There we see him on the camera. He's just looking for good moves. He's not looking at his opponent's webcam. He's not getting nervous yet, even though he's about to tick under 5 minutes on the clock. Wesley, as long as he plays a move in the next couple of minutes, maybe just taking the pawn. There's other options as well. He must be the favourite, but he can't let the clock become an enemy.
Is that the natural move here, to take that black pawn?
It is very much the natural move, although it is absolutely the natural move, and it's probably the one that you would play with the hand. But there is another tempting option, which is just to go immediately for broke and just use the knight and start checking that king and use the queen and the knight to kind of do some checkmating ideas. So this is the choice that Wesley is. Does he wait, take time out, take material, or does he immediately go for the kill?
That's right. So white could use his knight to jump to the edge of the board to give check to the black king. But personally, if my opponent attacks me, Magnus Carlsen, with that last pawn push highlighted by the yellow squares, if black attacks me, I'm just going to take it. I mean, it's a free pawn. Why not? OK, you do allow black's queen back towards the right side of the board, but Wesley So would have he would have 2 extra pawns in that position, 6 versus 4. I think just being greedy now, being materialistic, it's allowed. He doesn't need to rush to go for the checkmate. I would just try and take out any risk from the position, take the pawns, and then think about it afterwards.
He should rush a little bit on the clock, though.
On the clock, yes. On the position.
Yes, because it has 3.5 minutes and it's ticking down.
Yeah.
And we did hear from the video that Wesley did panic in time trouble. And this is something we've also mentioned, that 5 minutes is the magic number where, he has gone for the kill. He has used his knight to give a check. And that king is now going to go on a wild goose chase.
That's right. And Magnus looked slightly surprised by that last move. He leaned forward as if he was suddenly interested in this game again. Suddenly he thinks he's got a fighting chance. Black needs to find a safe square for his king, though. Personally, I would just slide across one square to the right. Wesley so shaking his head.
Yeah. Well, we actually do see on the computer, the bar went down quite significantly for Wesley as he did make this move.
That's right. I think he's just trying... I mean, that's just overcomplicating things. If you can take a pawn for free, you might as well. Instead, he's given a check. He's going straight for the checkmate. But if there's no immediate checkmate, then he might live to regret the fact he didn't just snap off that pawn. Suddenly, maybe Black's back in the game. And we do see above the board there also Stockfish, the computer, it recommends sliding across one square with the king. Every other move gives White a huge advantage, especially if you step backwards with the king. Yeah, you definitely don't want to let White's queen into your camp. Black has to keep that pawn next to the king protected.
Absolutely. And guys, we have another two fantastic tweets that I'm just going to read out. So we have one from Tursten who says, I'm a beginner in chess, but I'm already a huge fan of Magnus Carlsen and watching the matches has taught me a lot. Can't wait for the 26th of December. And then another tweet from Shane Ryan who says, I am absolutely a Johnny-come-lately inspired by the Queen's Gambit. But watching live chess is strangely riveted, especially with great commentary. So, yeah. OK, well, we have seen some amazing stuff just now. Magnus chose to go up the board with his king. Brave, brave decision. Comes with a warning. Don't try this at home, kids.
Definitely don't try this at home.
And Wesley so was fast to answer that move.
That's right. So Black's king stepped forward one square out into the open. Now it's had to dart backwards. I would have gone to this square immediately last turn. Instead, he's allowed White to improve his knight. White's knight is back towards the centre now. I mean, normally you definitely don't want to help your opponent improve their pieces and allow them to gain time with some checks. And now we see the computer thinks that White has two winning moves, but neither of them are completely obvious to me. For a human, I'm not sure I would want to trade my knight now for this bishop. If we bring up the analysis board, there are two good moves. Wesley so has slightly more time than Magnus. The best moves now for White are to capture this bishop with the knight. This knight looks so beautiful. I'm not sure for a human, that's the most natural attempt. The other move, this is very difficult for a human to see, would be to push the pawn forward one square, opening up this line for the bishop. I mean, if we think about it, that's very logical. The bishop needs to enter the game, but actually...
Oh, but he's done it. He has done it. He has taken that bishop. He has paid the best. Oh, but look at that. Magnus Carlsen complicating the matter because he has now taken the pawn.
That's right. And White only has one winning move now. Wesley so needs to find it. Otherwise, Magnus Carlsen is back in the game.
Oh.
It's not obvious at all for a human. Again, Black is attacking the White queen now with that pawn. White's queen needs to move, but there's only one square. It needs to go up towards the Black king. It needs to slide across two squares on that diagonal to the right. It needs to get as close to the Black king as possible. Personally, I think for a human, that's extremely hard to find, especially with 2 minutes on the clock. But Wesley, he's so good at calculating. He's so good at attacking normally.
All right, would be great to get that up either on Stockfish or the analyzing board. Where does that queen need to go? We're looking for one move and one move only.
Yes, the queen needs to slide on that diagonal for just two moves.
Wow,
it needs to
look at that
attack
advantage.
that black pawn that is opposite the king. So that's it. David is highlighting the square. It needs to go there. Any other move will lead to a draw.
Wow.
So Wesley in a very, very tight situation. He has to find that winning move.
Yeah, he's paused. He's spent over a minute now. He senses that he's winning. He just needs to find that move. The queen needs to edge towards the Black king. It will be giving checkmate soon. We see a +9 advantage. That's like being 9 points up or being like a queen up in a position. But everything else allows Black straight back into the game. It's very difficult. This is the key moment so far. Wesley about to tick under 1 minute soon. Will he find this move? He's focused in. He knows this is the moment.
And just look at Magnus's expression.
And he found it.
He's found it.
He's found it. Magnus Carlsen capturing the knight.
Immediately.
Wesley so giving a check with his queen. All he needs to do is bring his bishop into the attack. In this position, Wesley so has given a check to the Black king. The problem is for Wesley, he's got 1 minute and he has the option to make a draw. He can keep giving checks with his queen and the game will be a draw, but he needs to realise he can play for more here. All he needs to do is bring his bishop into the game. White's bishop doing nothing. If that bishop joins the attack, the game is over. White will give checkmate. Wesley So, though, it's not clear, it's not obvious. He needs to be accurate. He needs to be quick. He gives another check.
And I think he's going to...
Oh, look at the bar. It goes down to draw again.
Yes, I think he had the right idea, but perhaps the wrong execution, because I think Black can stop this bishop from entering the game. Magnus Carlsen has been let off the hook, David.
Oh, is this a terrible blunder by Wesley So?
Yeah, it's just the wrong execution. You know, if the bishop wanted to come in to deliver a check, but here, Magnus has got 9 lives.
That's right. So White wants to, one move now. The bishop, if it lands on this square, that's immediately checkmate, attacking the Black king. So therefore, Magnus, he only has one move. Only one move saves the game for Black. He needs to bring his queen and protect this square, stop White from giving check on this square. Every other move loses. Magnus, he's been given a chance. Will he find it? Wesley So, he's lost control, but actually it's not completely obvious for Magnus. He needs to find this one move to survive.
All right, so now we are looking for this one move by Magnus Carlsen.
That's right. This is these guys are so good. The fine margins, tiny margins. It's just one move here and there. Magnus, he needs to find that move.
And he did.
And he's found it.
He does find that move. Wesley So giving a check with his queen. Will he realise he's blown the advantage now? He can still play for the win. He's giving a check on a different square this time. The problem for Wesley So is his bishop can't enter the attack. And Black has a very dangerous pawn now on the left side of the board. It's a race against time.
Can Black actually win this now?
If Wesley's not careful, maybe Black can win. Wow. That's why he has to possibly take a draw. He has to just keep checking until the end of the game and force a draw. If Wesley plays on, Black's pawn there on the left side is possibly just going to run down and make another queen for Black. Wesley, he'll be so gutted if he misses this one. Messes this one up, he's so close.
Because he knows he's been in a very good winning position. Obviously, does he know now that he's no longer in that great winning position?
No, he probably doesn't know. This is one of those things that's probably going to suddenly dawn on him as he tries to involve that bishop into the game. Until then, I don't think he realises he's just going to keep checking, and then the penny will drop, and then he'll realise, oh dear.
We will keep an eye on Wesley So's face to see what it looks like when he might realise that, again, he blundered a winning position. We've seen this too many times from him in this tournament.
That's right. That killer instinct, it's normally there, but it's just when he faces the very top guys like Magnus Carlsen, like Hikaru Nakamura, sometimes he just chokes right next to the finishing line. And here we saw just one move would have finished the game off, would have given him a +9 advantage, a queen advantage, but this time it looks like he's allowed Magnus Carlsen to escape.
And he has gone under the minute on the clock. He has made his move.
And he's doing a series of checks, and now he's desperately trying to figure out a way to get that bishop into the attack. But I think, yes, one of the things with Wesley is that it's the last minute, the last 2 minutes when he has to be very precise, and that is when it happens, that he squanders away several winning positions. And it's very unfortunate, but it's actually part of rapid chess.
Of course, yeah. And under 20 seconds for Wesley So there.
Yeah.
Right. And we've actually had, if Magnus moves his king forward diagonally, we've had this position before. Will we see a repetition of moves? Will we see Wesley So bail out, escape from this game with a draw, knowing that he missed an opportunity, or will we see him take a risk and try and win? There's still chances for both sides if Wesley So doesn't continue checking here. Wesley So, he could still try to deliver checkmate. The problem is he's only attacking with one piece. A queen on her own is not enough to checkmate. And Wesley, he turns down the chance to make a draw. He takes a pawn. He's going for the win here, Wesley So. Shouldn't be enough, but he's still going to test Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen has to be accurate. Wesley So, on this last move, if he kept giving check, we would have seen the position repeat itself and make a draw. Instead, he's playing for the win. We love to see it, but it's a bit of a risk. Black now has a few moves. Black can just push a pawn. Black can move his queen forward. If you imagine the Black queen there, it can just jump up one square, protect that pawn on the other side of the board.
Okay. Oh, but Magnus has moved his queen. Perhaps that's a...
I think that move should be fine.
I think it should be fine. Yeah, it should be absolutely fine. Because you have to remember, it is just the white queen that is giving check. And you have to remember my words, the words of my father, who says a queen by herself does not give checkmate. And
she needs her army.
She does need backup. And of course, the queen and the black queen and the bishop are lined up. So black does have the threat of taking white's pawn. So now there is danger on Wesley's side, should he not continue checking.
That's right. So white's king is no longer entirely safe. We see Wesley so shaking his head there. He knows what he's done. He knows there's no chance to win this one anymore. Black is actually one of the ones threatening checkmate. So Wesley, he's continuing to check. He's going to take the draw right now. It's a miracle. As you said, that white queen, she needs her handmaidens. She needs some support. And Wesley, he just never got that bishop into the attack.
Yeah.
I think we're about to see a draw now. Wesley so just giving a lot of checks to the black king. White's queen checks, black king runs, and the dance goes on forever. We will not see a winner to this game. Wesley so such a big missed opportunity.
Again, I can't believe it that he's. And it looks like he's realizing it now.
He's realizing now that Magnus's last move forces him to keep on checking, and there's just nothing to be done. And we have a tweet from Zach who says, watching Super Grandmasters miss winning moves and ideas makes losing at my level feel so much more inconsequential. Hashtag Wesley so. Oh.
These guys are humans too. They might find genius moves from time to time, but every human makes a mistake. I think that's what drove me on when I was young. I knew, okay, even the top players, even grandmasters, you can get at them if you can attack.
Yeah. And especially in this time control, well, it makes them much more human. You know, I'm sure at a classical time control of 2 hours, that Wesley would have perhaps taken the time to find the winning move. But yeah, he missed it.
And he does only have 30 seconds on the clock. Do you think he will now quite fast go into that draw and just admit it is now a draw?
I think he needs to. It could rebound if white plays for the win here. White's king is no longer completely safe. As Jovanka mentioned, black's queen is threatening to drop down 2 squares along the diagonal and take a pawn. And actually, black would be the one giving checkmate. So time is of the essence for Wesley, not just on the clock, but also he needs to urgently stop that threat. He needs to keep giving checks, and the game will repeat itself. The position will repeat itself.
Yeah, Wesley so shaking his head. He is realizing this will end in a draw, so close to making a huge comeback after losing the first game. But it just wasn't quite enough.
No, it's not quite close enough. And as Agard Mater says on Twitter, Magnus gets his birthday present early this year. Of course, Magnus celebrating his 30th birthday tomorrow.
Yes. Well, on the Skilling Open final, he will turn 30. Hopefully for him, celebrating also winning the Skilling Open.
That's right. And so close, but no cigar, as they say in England. Wesley very, very close. Black's king now just hiding out.
And he is, well, the clock is really ticking for Wesley, so he is still out here playing his moves.
That's right. He's trying to set some traps. I don't think Magnus is ever going to walk his king too far forward where it might get checkmated. Magnus just keeping his king nice and safe at the top there. That's a very sensible thing to do. As long as you don't let white's bishop check that king, as long as the black king stays on a dark square, black will be completely safe. And as we saw, white has to keep checking, because if white takes a pause, if he takes a timeout, if he pushes a pawn, for example, suddenly black is the one attacking on this diagonal. Black is the one going to give checkmate. So this is why white needs to keep checking and take the draw. Have we seen a result? I think the player's still playing, but unfortunately, maybe Wesley just forgot that black is creating threats of his own now. Magnus Carlsen possibly playing for the win, trying to run away from these checks. Okay, Wesley, so all under control for now.
All right, well, it is Magnus Carlsen thinking. You said Magnus Carlsen could possibly go for the win. Do you think, is that realistic?
I think probably not, but that's the type of person Magnus Carlsen is. He's trying to play on Wesley So's nerves. And actually, Magnus Carlsen, it looked like he is actually trying to play for the win here.
Wow.
He's trying to stop Wesley So from checking his king. His king hasn't been on this square before. He's allowing a pawn takes pawn. Magnus making a bit of a face there. He looks surprised. I'm not sure whether he missed that last one. It's still under control for black. All he needs to do is take that pawn with his king. Any other move, I think, actually, maybe Wesley's back, back in the driving seat, back in control. Magnus, we're looking for... Okay,
and he's taken with the queen, and I think it's still absolutely fine for Magnus.
It does look like that last decision, Magnus is the one feeling ambitious now. We see the black pawn in White's camp over on the left side of the board. That black pawn is going to try and run forward now, sooner rather than later. White centralises his queen. Wesley so brings his queen back towards the middle of the board. Sensible stuff, stopping any checks, stopping that black pawn from advancing. Black's queen brings itself back to the square it was on a couple of moves ago. Again, threatening the white king. This one is still in the balance, but it's hard to tell who's playing for the win, who's playing for the draw.
Yeah, and Wesley now has retreated with the queen and now is saying to Magnus, OK, I'm satisfied with the draw now, but look at the position. Suddenly it's a big turnaround because now the initiative is with Magnus. Magnus is the one that is playing for the win. Unbelievable stuff. And
yeah,
this is the difference between grandmasters and me. I think I would probably be OK, you probably deserve the draw, but Magnus is like, nope.
Yeah, Magnus, he knows he's been losing the whole game. As soon as he has a chance to draw, he says, no, I'm going to go for the win.
And, OK, we have to keep an eye on the Wesley's clock because he has 2 seconds and he just made the move to get 12 seconds on the clock. Oh, goodness me. How nerve-wracking is this? And Magnus has lined up his queen and king on the same line to threaten checkmate. And now it's Magnus who really has gone for...
Yeah,
gosh, he's captured a pawn.
Magnus was going for checkmate. He had a checkmate in one threat there. Instead, he's in control. The only one who could ever win this is now black. A complete turnaround. Whoa. Should still be a draw, but Magnus Carlsen, he's the one bossing things. Black's queen there shuffling across one square. White needs to get the queen active. White's queen, it dropped back, it retreated. We've said this so many times. Retreating should be for a reason. You should only do it if it's really necessary. Now, White is desperately trying to get that queen into the game.
And, OK, it's managing to get it into the game. So that last move was very, very good by Wesley. So, but Magnus has come in with the queen to deliver check, and Wesley had sidestepped the check with the king. And now the issue is, can the bishop and queen of Wesley so coordinate into something dangerous?
That's right. And it's hard to tell whose king is safer. I would say White's king is slightly safer. It has 2 pawns in front of it. Black's king is slightly out in the open, but it's Black's move. Black can give some checks with the queen right now. So Magnus Carlsen, I think he has to decide. He can force a draw immediately by giving lots of checks with his queen. I'm not sure there's a way to play on. He continues to play on. He's threatening checkmate in one move now. Magnus Carlsen, he's threatening to bring the black queen across 2 squares and capture a pawn in front of White's king, giving checkmate. Wesley so needs to be accurate. He needs to find a way to draw this game. He can't take his foot off the pedal for one move,
no,
otherwise black will win.
No, he cannot allow the black king to have a find shelter, because that checkmate with the black bishop and queen, it is unavoidable. So in order to avoid the loss, Wesley has to keep checking, and he has to make sure that the king does not find salvation somewhere on the left-hand side of the board. So Wesley again playing it super safe and defending the pawn. He refuses to go for checks.
That's right, Wesley. So on the defensive, retreating there. He's still got it under control. We see the bar is still locked in the middle. This should still be a draw. But Magnus Carlsen, he's playing for the win. That's incredible ambition from the world champion. And
actually, we are joined right now by Grandmaster Anish Giri, who has played the Skilling Open. He was knocked out in the quarterfinals by Magnus Carlsen. Hi, Anish.
Hello.
Hi.
Good to hear you. Hi.
So glad to see you, and so much going on in this game right now. I want to ask you, can you take us inside their heads right now? How are they feeling? What are they thinking?
You think I know?
I think you definitely know.
Wesley, I think so much happened they already forgot, but at some point Wesley was sort of winning. But it was not easy. Magnus was putting up some defense, and I think lately Magnus is for the last part of the game. Magnus is a little bit naughty, and he's trying to sort of pretend that he's pushing for a win. Maybe he will confuse Wesley. Who knows? But I think at this point probably the draw is a fair result.
And we are seeing moves flourish out on the board now. I guess you are seeing what's happening on the board, Anish. Can you help us?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
At some point, Black King was in danger on the right-hand side of the board, but now no longer. Now, the king is safe because Black controls all the dark squares, and all his pieces are on the dark squares, and White has the light square bishop, so the bishop cannot touch anything. And so now all of that is gone. There is absolutely no danger to the king. And Black does have a far advanced pawn on the left-hand side of the board there, and one other one on the right-hand side. And, when both pawns start running, there are some chances. But I think now it's already it changed completely. The landscape has changed completely, and now it's really all about Black pushing for a win in a very, very controlled way. There's absolutely no risk left for him. I think Magnus is really feeling very good about it. And given the psychological turnaround, I think he even has realistic winning chances, because you don't want to be, especially whenever you messed up an winning opportunity, you don't want to be suffering. You already draw, it's already bad enough. You don't want to start playing for defense. That's very unpleasant.
And David, can we see now by these moves that Magnus Carlsen is really pushing for that win?
That's right. He's trying to put pressure on the board and on the clock. He's taking some small risks here and there. For example, now he's walking into a potential discovered attack, but I don't think this is ever going to come to anything. As Anish said, Black controls all of the dark squares. Black's king will be entirely safe the rest of the game. I'm just looking out for these pawns. Wesley, so going after one of those pawns now, he wants to remove one of them. The problem is the other one might run. And it's hard to tell. I agree with Anish. I think there's decent winning chances here for Black, especially after that psychological.
Yeah, psychologically, Wesley must be incredibly angry with himself. First of all, he's suffering, and secondly, he knows that he messed up a winning position. So, oof.
And 7 seconds on the clock. Anish, how aware are the players now of their clocks that are ticking?
That's terrible. That's terrible. Especially 7 seconds is the area in which you sometimes make a decision, take a decision that you can no longer explain. When you have 1 minute, you are tensed. When you have 7 seconds, you can panic. So many of my opponents or myself, when I see 7 seconds, so often people make such insane mistakes, and they're just so horrible and so beyond their level. And I think, it's just way too little time. 7 seconds is just, you should never land there. It's just a very bad thing.
And with these last moves, are we still seeing Magnus Carlsen pushing for that win?
He's getting better. His situation is getting better and better, because look, he's pushing the queen out, because that queen trade, I think, is very dangerous for White. The endgame could be lost, and now he has pushed the queen by threatening a trade. He has pushed it all the way to the side of the board where it does nothing, and now his king starts to walk down. Isn't he already winning, actually, objectively?
I think so.
It must be very close.
What is the bar? What is the bar saying there? The green bar.
Well, actually, it's only saying a small advantage to Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah,
but you know that, but any advantage is not good at this stage. Yeah, any advantage. Objectively, of course, the computer will still hold, but I think the margin is getting smaller and smaller, and I think before you know it, the bar will swing and never swing back anymore. Oh, now the king comes in. Look at how king comes in. Yeah, I think Wesley will panic now. It's just very hard.
Yeah, even the bar starts.
The bar starts to panic. When the bar starts to panic, guys, it's over.
Exactly. That Black King has gone on a real journey, on a real adventure. It started off very weak, very exposed on that right side. It's kind of walked itself all the way over to the other side of the board now.
And now it's gone to assist that dangerous pass pawn. Gosh.
And now we see the bar, as Anish is saying, it's going crazy.
He just has to be careful.
Beware of mate there. Beware of mate.
Yes.
That was huge. Before there is a mate there on the left-hand side.
That's right. There is a trap in this position. If we bring the board up, Anish nearly had a heart attack. I nearly had a heart attack. If Magnus advances king 1 square, there's a trick. This is checkmate. The queen is protected and the Black King is trapped. But what do we think? He won't fall into that, right?
No, he won't fall into that at all.
That's big, because now I think because of that, he has lost his advantage with Black, because he missed this idea.
Yeah, but possibly that's really, really resourceful from Wesley So there. Somehow Magnus Carlsen, it feels like he'll still be able to set some traps, still be able to slowly start pushing his king forward, those pawns forward.
But is it complicated with, 20 seconds on the clock now for Magnus? Is it complicated finding that win?
Yeah, his nerves will be jangling as well. I mean, it's not a position that's completely devoid of risk for black. If he puts his king on the wrong square, there's still a small chance he might get checkmated. So it's not completely risk-free. And Wesley So looks like he's defending well again.
Yeah. But still, I think this is pure enjoyment for Magnus. It just has to be slightly aware of those traps because, like Anish said, he knows that he's being naughty, trying to push hard for the win when he had such a bad position. But OK, Magnus has gotten greedy and has now snatched a pawn. So this is going to allow a series of checks. Now, black has to be very careful where to put the king. King has gone to the centre. And we are going to see the king run once more.
Yeah, that king's gone right, it's gone left. We talked about Maradona earlier.
You know what the problem is going to be is that Wesley will pick up that one of these pawns on the left side, and once he picks that one, he will be able to trade queens then, because then he can give up the bishop for the other one, and it will be a theoretical draw. So I think now, yeah, he should take the pawn. Yes, and now I think it's an easy draw because now you can not just trade the queens, and now it's a draw. So I think that's gone. Yeah.
That's right. And Wesley, so he'll go for it. Basically, once the queen trade happens, White's bishop will stop this pawn, and the king will stop this one.
He's playing for a win, I guess. He's already playing for a win.
He didn't do the queen trade.
Yeah, because he plays for a win.
Who's playing for the win? Who's playing for the draw? I think neither of us know, right, Anish?
Are they both playing for the win now,
hang on a second. Something.
Look at the bar.
No, there's something just happened.
Yeah, it just made.
Magnus Carlsen, he's blundered into checkmate.
So bad.
And it's over.
Wesley, this is absurd. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is absurd.
I'm speechless.
Okay, well, this is probably the craziest game we've seen so far in the Skilling Open. So Wesley So was completely winning. He blundered. Magnus Carlsen was suddenly winning. He blunders. And Wesley So ends up as the winner of game 2.
And you can just look at that smile on Wesley's face. He's just laughing. Unbelievable stuff.
Magnus had to run away from the board, I think, just so he can have a little scream. I mean, we're right back in the final now.
He threw his mouse. He was like...
Something that he's now going to fix. I saw this video, how he reacts to losses. He said he breaks stuff and then he's trying to put them back together for the next hour.
Is that what Magnus Carlsen wants to do right now?
Currently putting something back together because it was also unbelievably lucky by Wesley because so the position was already very drawn and then he could have traded queens and fixed the draw. Instead, he gave this one more check, which was sort of meaningless. But as it happened, it brought him a win. So like crazy luck there.
What is Wesley So feeling right now, Anish?
Oh, he's thrilled. I mean, the wins feel good, but the lucky wins, they feel even better.
Is it true?
And the undeserved ones are the best. The undeserved ones. Oh, my God.
And can you believe the drama we now have in the final? Magnus Carlsen winning the first game, Wesley So winning the second. What do you expect now from the rest of the finals?
Wow. I mean... in general, if it was anyone but Magnus, such a game, it just breaks you. But Magnus, of course, he's always focused on his goals, on the next games. He's focused on winning this final. So I think he'll try to play well. But I think he right now, he probably wants to slow it down a little bit for today. He wants to play 2 solid games because he realizes that, after such an insane game, things can go wrong. So maybe today, if he takes it easy and just plays 2 solid games, he's probably fine even with the 2-2 score. And then tomorrow he will sleep. He'll forget about this disaster, and maybe then tomorrow he'll strike. So I think that after such a game, you don't wanna push your luck again because this is just too unfortunate.
And this was a game of a lot of drama on the board. It was actually also very interesting to watch the web cameras of the players. I do think we have some reactions, especially from Magnus Carlsen.
He fell out of the virtual background for a second.
Look how angry he is. Oh, look at that. Can you sort of recognize yourself in that feeling, Anish?
No, I absolutely don't have that. Like this thing of wanting to pick something, I just don't have that.
And look at Wesley. He almost wants to raise his arms in the air. He's so close to doing that. You can just see how much that means to him to get that win. All right. Well, so much drama happened in that game, and I'm so glad that we have you joining us, Anish. And I would love if you guys could take us through the key moments in this game. I guess both when Wesley So blundered away his win and when Magnus blundered away his win. And I guess, first of all, we should start by deciding queenside and kingside on the analyzing board so that we can start using those words, Anish.
No, but I thought about it. It is tricky because you might have some new people joining and then, just all confused with the queenside, kingside. So let's stick to the left and right. Although I know many people who also get confused with left and right. So you might wanna,
I think it's about time. We've done the broadcast now for 7 days. We have many new people with us to teach them queenside and kingside. Let's do it.
Anish, you can talk them through it. I've got so confused myself now.
Guys, the mini clip for your YouTube channel, Anish Giri does not actually know what is said.
That would be fantastic.
So good. Yeah. No, in general, yes. So, David, you are our headmaster here. What are we looking at? Oh, here. How it's supposed to be. And it was actually quite complicated. I think he first pushed the pawn, right, and then wanted to give a check with the bishop. Instead. Yeah, instead he should have first moved the bishop. And then I think the point is that if the queen attacks the bishop from here, I think then you can give a check with the queen. King goes back, then check with the queen as well on the 6th rank. No, on the 6th, I think on the 6th. You can do that. And then if king goes up, then you can pick up the pawn, I think, simply. And I think this could simply be very good because you retain, like, you have still a bunch of extra pawns. One more is hanging. There is a threat of a discovered check, but this is not a forced mate, and I think that's what Wesley was trying to find. I don't think there was a forced mate, but I think this was the way to go.
But he didn't find this, if I understood correctly.
No, he didn't find this. No, he advanced his pawn instead of developing the bishop.
That's right.
He was trying to go for a checkmate because here, like, you are picking up this pawn, the passed pawn, and you move away with the queen from the attack. I think he was trying to find, like a checkmate, direct checkmate, but there wasn't one, it seems.
And yeah, after many adventures, it looked like we were headed for a draw. We both thought that Wesley So was about to take the draw, then suddenly Magnus was about to take the draw. Magnus played for the win, but I guess the critical moment, and you joined us just for it, Anish, was after this, a potential queen exchange. We thought the game was about to end. Taking the queens off the board is an immediate draw. White gave a check, and maybe talk us through what Magnus Carlsen was thinking here, because I can't explain this next decision. I mean, so many safe moves. You could block with the queen, you could run the other side with the king, you could run towards the left, towards the queen side, the left side, the left 4 ranks. But instead, Magnus,
what was Magnus thinking here, Anish?
Okay, you have a blind spot, you just have a blind spot. Also, like, so far, any move he made, there was no danger. There was never any checkmate. There was never any mating net of sorts. But here, suddenly, there is one. So I think he just lost sense of danger. I think he was already frustrated at this point, actually, that he is not winning this game because he was kind of doing very well for the past few moves. And I think he was somewhat confused that Wesley doesn't take the draw immediately. And actually, that's right. When you have the draw in the pocket, you should never take it. You should test your opponent one more time. And so Wesley just gave a check. And yes, and Magnus just lost sense of danger. I think he thought everything is fine. And he just missed. He just had a blind spot. He didn't see the check on e8 all the way down there. He didn't see it.
Yeah, that's right. And just a few moves later, Black only has one reply now. The bishop and queen team up very well together. Black only has one safe square. Again, Black only has one safe square, and the queen. It's a bit of a merry-go-round. More checks, and yeah, Black.
Beautiful. It's like the previous game. Like, there is both these games. They have like a study-like finish. They're so beautiful. Like, the geometrically very beautiful. The previous one was also like a queen shuffling back and forth, and here too, like very geometric finish. Very pretty.
That's right. And Magnus Carlsen, he resigned here because the queen, the bishop, and the pawn combined to trap the Black king here. Beautiful stuff.
What's very beautiful, David? If instead of queen to f5 and last move with mate, you would give check on f3 first. Then after king goes to g5, you go back to f5, h5, h7, f7, and you complete a full circle, and then you checkmate. That would have been even more beautiful. You went.
That's just playing with your food needs.
Is that beautiful or is that sadistic?
That's sadistic.
All right. Well, at one point, Wesley So had 7 seconds on the clock. You commented on that, Anish. Was this actually pure genius by Wesley So, or did he get very, very lucky?
It is not. It's not just luck. Wesley is one of these people, that despite the crazy time pressure, he still is able to keep his nerves. Like I'm sure not all the time. I'm sure you cannot always perform well under 7 seconds, but he's one of these people who are capable of that. Like, and there are a few, obviously Magnus and Hikaru and a few more players who